Good morning, and we're starting Cafecito time. Sorry, I'm running a little bit behind today. I'm excited to be here with you today. This is our immigration discussion. So today is Wednesday, and we have 2 more days, and we're done with Cafecito time for the month. So today we're having a special guest, Vanessa Alonso. So let me read a little bit about her and also pin our comment here what we're talking about. So Vanessa Alonso, she's a 35-year-old successful law firm owner. She practices immigration law and is a mother of 3. She started law school at 21 years old, which I was shocked to read that. It's pretty amazing. During law school summers, she worked for a nonprofit. She provided legal outreach to migrant workers. She fell in love with the client. She said, "I felt at home conversing with them in Spanish. The aromas from the food cooked in their housing units reminded me of home. When I was so far away from everything I loved, I felt like I found my place." She currently owns a small practice with her husband, and together they provide removal defense, family-based immigration, asylum, citizenship, and criminal defense, and much more. And it's all tailored in Spanish to Spanish-speaking Latino clients in Texas. So that's who we're talking to today. Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm great, actually. I'm in the office. We've been only coming a couple of times a week, so it's kind of weird because it's like a ghost town around here. We're all working from home, only some of us here, and our clients have gotten really good about doing everything virtually. So
Wow.
it's a new world over here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I worked for another immigration firm before moving to where I am right now. And sitting into an empty office, like that ghost house feeling, is like both a feeling of relief, like, oh, I'm by myself, but also kind of eeriness. So
Definitely, I can
can
relate.
imagine, what's going on with your firm with COVID-19. Like, I'm glad to hear that the clients are adapting to that virtual way because your work doesn't stop.
Yeah, definitely. And I think my clientele, specifically, they're mainly Spanish-speaking clients here, undocumented in Texas. And most of them, at first they didn't even have email addresses, but now they know how to use Zoom and they know how to call me on WhatsApp
That's amazing.
and scan me documents. I mean, it's been kind of amazing for them. They've actually come a long way during this pandemic. I'm actually really proud of them.
That's really good. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good to hear. I know that you've been a follower, and I see when you like stuff on their Instagram.
Yes, I followed your journey. I mean, I think it's amazing. I love what you're doing. I love the collaboration. And I mean, I think for the first time, I didn't realize what a small percentage Latina lawyers were. And for you to say, 2%, and now that number is kind of like following me. I'm like, wow, that what we're doing is pretty extraordinary. And I think I love collaboration and support of other fellow Latinas. And so, I mean, thank you for having me on here. I feel privileged, honestly.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I really hope that these are helping our future generations of Latina lawyers and Latina advocates. So that I'm excited to be a part of it.
I would have loved for you to have done this when I was in law school because I felt, alone out there.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, like some of the discussions I've had with fellow Latinas who, just like me, we're a lot of us are just first gen, right? Like we're doing everything education wise, the first generation or as immigrants ourselves. And looking back, wow, I really wish I would have found this community as I was in law school, and some of the questions that I'm even listening to now, other things I wish I would have considered. I'm also learning too. So I'm learning from the people that I'm talking to. And I think I love learning. So it's just been a beautiful experience.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So you're in Texas, correct?
Correct. Our practice is in San Antonio, Texas. So we're kind of right in the middle, but we serve all of Texas in terms of our detained population. So we have immigration detention centers in El Paso, in Houston, at the border. And so even though we're located here, we do a lot of travel to these detention centers that are anywhere from 2 to 8 hours away from us because, as we all know, ICE can detain someone anywhere. It doesn't matter where they were picked up or where their family members reside, they can transfer them to, Pennsylvania if they wanted to. And then, if we're representing them, we have to continue that representation regardless of their location. So I
Yeah.
guess you can kind of say we serve the country, even though our practice is in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely uh, hear you with that, especially you're in such a hot state when it comes to immigration and detention. It's been a really difficult topic to process, especially when you're seeing the clients yourself. So I'm really glad that you're talking to us today. I'm just really honestly honored to be talking to you because you're doing a lot of that groundwork. So that's really
Oh,
amazing.
thank you so much.
So I think I've been finding a theme when I am interviewing someone. The first question is, why did you go to law school? I think that's probably our intro question to every session that I've had.
I was honestly going through my undergrad so quickly. I had so many dreams and ideas of what I wanted to do without really knowing exactly how. I knew I wanted to do something important. I wanted to help people, and I wanted to make good money. I mean, that honestly was a goal of mine, and I don't think there's anything wrong with admitting that. When you grow up kind of struggling, you picture one day having more than what you grew up having and providing for the people that kind of struggled with you along the way. And so as I was approaching graduation, kind of unexpectedly, um, my friend, her name is Jenny, she was like obsessed with Legally Blonde, and she's like, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I was like, what, a lawyer? Oh my God. At that time I was thinking about being a news anchor, being a politician. I mean, I was studying communication arts. I really didn't have any idea what I was going to do next, but I had to make a decision quickly. And so I said, well, I think going to law school will definitely help me reach any goal I end up really having for my career. And so from 1 month to the next, like, I signed up for the LSAT, and it just took off from there. And so I feel like I was kind of catapulted into law school at the end of my undergrad degree. And I wouldn't have it any other way now. But to be honest, to say that at 21 you really know what you want to do with your life, I mean, I know I didn't have that experience. Yeah, and that's how I ended up in law school. And I think I had really amazing mentors at the time. I had a friend who had gone to law school at University of Toledo, Ohio, and he said, um, go as far away as you can so that you can get money to go to school. Someone will pay your way. And he actually had graduated from University of Toledo Law. And he said, there's an amazing grant there. It's called the Law Education Opportunity Grant. Like, I'll never forget about this grant because it paid my tuition throughout law school. So it was definitely one of those, if you want to get this, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone and go away, far, far away, to school where you can, where basically someone wanted me because I was a female Latina, and I was going to diversify their population, So definitely take advantage of those opportunities when you have them, because they make a huge difference when you're trying to repay those student loans in the future.
Yeah, I think it's amazing when I hear. I mean, first of all, I think it's amazing that you were 21 years old when you started law school. I'll have to get back to that question because I want to know, more. But then the second is hearing a lot of our Latinas who have had an opportunity to get those scholarships and finding that value in themselves, that there is help for me out there and I'm not alone in this. So there's people who actually want to help you pay your way into law school. And for a first generation, everything in for me, in a state where I didn't have that support, that was really hard. I didn't value myself or see myself getting any other scholarships or even that I deserved any of them.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. So like listening to I'm learning from you, from other women who are in more Latino power states. And I think it's just amazing. So I hope whoever's listening, if you're in the Midwest, that they know that they can find those types of scholarships. It's really
Yeah.
important.
And you know what? Don't be ashamed to take the help. No one paid my way to go to law school because I was the smartest in my class or because I had the best LSAT score. I had a 151. I mean, I think my GPA when I graduated undergrad was about a 3.4. So I wasn't, this like cream of the crop person from a cream of the crop school. I just wanted to do something. And then someone said, hey, I'll help you do it. And I took the help. And I
Wow.
think that at the end of the day, like where I am now in my career, I get to help, thousands of people. They look to me, they trust me. And everything between, my upbringing to now, numbers and those sort of things don't really matter. So don't get caught up in thinking, comparing yourself to someone who's maybe getting their way paid to school based on their academics. Just find the way to make it happen for yourself. And then the difference for you is going to be how much you invest in yourself and your practice and your clients in the future. So I guess in short, like, how you get there doesn't matter. Just get there.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Sharing. So getting back to that question, 21 years old, did you start high school early or school early overall?
Sure. What happened was that in high school, I took courses that were dual credit, and there were only a couple because I'm going to be honest, I did a lot of those AP courses where you get credit for college if you pass the exam. So I did all those hard classes, and I didn't pass any of the exams. But my mom, who was actually going to school at the same time that I was going to school, I have a really young mom. She was doing her bachelor's around the same time. She was CLEPing courses. And so I started to CLEP courses also. And I started my undergrad with about a year in college credit already done based on the CLEP exams. And anyone who's kind of in high school, or if maybe listening or knows someone in that situation, CLEP exams give you credit for college the same way taking an AP course and passing the AP exam would, but AP exams are probably twice as hard. So
Mm-hmm.
I went into college with a lot of credit already. And then I did some college courses during my summers. So it wasn't even intentional, but it just happened to be that I was able to finish my undergrad in 3 years. And that's how I ended up in law school so young.
Wow. Yeah, because I've never met someone who was 21. And maybe it's just me, but a lot of people that I went to school with either were right off like at 24, 23, 24, or they were much older, going back into school. So,
Sure, definitely. And I went to school with a lot of those people, and believe me, it was really difficult sitting in those, I put that in my bio, sitting in those really complex discussions and not having a clue. I didn't know, about politics, about economics. I had no idea. I mean, I'm reading the material and participating with as much as I knew how, but I felt that people that were older than me and had more experience got a better overall, got more out of the law school discussions than I did. I felt like I was just kind of holding on for dear life.
mm-hmm. Well, that's just pretty amazing. Yeah, wow. I still love hearing the stories that each person has their own, what they experienced, but you were so young, and that is incredible. So congratulations on all that you
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I have a few more questions for you. Again, kind of talking about going into immigration. I know that you worked with a migrant farm worker type of program, correct? And is that how you first got into immigration, or did you already have an interest before going to law school?
No, it was definitely my summers in law school spending with a nonprofit called Advocates for Basic Legal Equality. They would serve the entire state of Ohio and provide outreach each summer. So every summer I would go. I got paid very well. I considered working for a nonprofit. It was like my first real job. I was making $15 an hour, and I got to go speak to people that are seasonal farm workers that would be in Ohio to pick whatever crop was happening, cabbage, chile, whatever it was. And we would actually go in the evenings to speak to them in their housing facilities because the farmers provide migrant housing. So it's a lot of these little kind of metal shacks on cement with air conditioning. And so everyone's kind of like outside cooking. Some people have their children. Some camps are just single men. So we would go into the camps and just like speak to every single person. We were looking for like wage violations and to make sure that they were okay and that the farmers were treating them right. But a lot of times their question, they see you speak English, and they're like, hey, you're here about law, right? Well, look at these papers. Like, tell me what my status is. Tell me how much longer I have to wait for my green card. I got this letter and I don't know what it means. So a lot of, it starts out as this outreach looking for farm work, farm labor violations. And it becomes more of like a, translate this for me and tell me what it means. And that's where I started learning about the immigration issue. So we would go looking for farm labor violations, and we would end up addressing immigration concerns. And that's how I first got into that line of work. And after that, my first job also happened to be given to me by another, what we consider Latina. She was running a large immigration law firm. I went to school with her little sister. I went to high school and also college with her little sister. And so as soon as I graduated, I called her. Even though we're not friends, we're not besties, I called and say, hey, I need a job. And so she's like, okay, like, come on down, let's do this. And so she hired me right away. It was my very first real job, besides the job with the migrant farm worker program. And ever since then, I've been doing nothing but immigration. It's been 10 years now. So,
yeah. And I just love that you're talking about the farm workers program, because I don't know if you got a chance to listen to some of our episodes. My first one, I discussed my experience. I was in Indiana when I worked for the Farm Workers Law Center too.
oh my God, that's awesome.
What you're describing is just bringing back memories and that passion. That's where it started. Well, I had already had an idea of what I wanted to do. For me, my story's a little different, but when I was doing that and I encouraged people to do it, it really changed my life. I mean, I was so humble. Like it reminded me why and how I ended up where I was. And in a different way, it reminded me of how much more there is for us to do, and how even as simple as making sure that this person is getting proper hydration on the fields, even as making sure that this person is paid well, or isn't their pay is not being kept from them. It was so important to be out in those fields and then just seeing their love. I remember that we were not, I don't know if you had the same rules, we were not allowed to accept any food. And that was really hard especially when they know that you are Latina and you speak Spanish and you're so close.
And you're hungry, probably.
No, for me, I would bring snacks because I knew that. Like, I just knew that that was the rule. And then we brought our lunches and our snacks, my partner and I, when we were doing these. And when we finally we would get to the actual housing units, and I would smell them cooking, and it just reminded me of home and my family, and I missed them. I would never ask, obviously. I would always say no. I got offered so many times, but it was hard when there was a Latina farm worker, a female farm worker, because they were like, mija, por favor, like, let's eat or something. And I was just
And of course, when you grow up that way, where you always accept food back home. If you go to a family member's house or a neighbor's house, you accept the food. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that, because we experienced the same. But it was really nice, and just like you said, very humbling. If you go and you visit and they've worked all day doing backbreaking work that I wouldn't have lasted one day in those fields. I just, the heat, the bugs, the labor, the intensity, and it's continuous. Like, it's nonstop. So you come in like feeling like, wow, like these people work really, really hard. And in the evenings, they're still cooking, spending time with their children, playing soccer. I mean, it's their life, and all they want to do is earn a living to support themselves and their family members back home. And I just think it's so honorable that they really come to give everything and don't ask for much in return. So it's really an amazing, the undocumented, there's just so much gratitude that you get from them, because they literally expect nothing. There are people that consult with me and say, like, are you sure I can get what you're saying, abogada? Like, that sounds like that's not possible. And then when we win cases, they're like, wow, that's amazing. Like, they're just so happy, because they literally, all they want to do is come and work and provide for their families.
And just going back, I mean, when I met these people, they are my community. They're not just for me. Like, when I see a person who's like Latinx, and whatever they're doing, it just feels like I want to build this connection with them and help them in whatever that I can, or learn from them. And so I definitely know that feeling. So if you're a law student or thinking of going to law school, I want to make sure that you see her, you see me, like, we did this program and it's needed. And especially if you speak Spanish, there's a lot of migrant farm workers who need you. So I'm very happy to hear your story if you've been a part of that. And it looks like we're starting to get some questions. So kind of
Okay,
shifting
awesome.
back. I know that I prepared some for you here, so I might just jump back and forth if they
Okay.
were like that theme. So it looks like the first question is, what led you to decide to open your own immigration firm? How long
Mm.
have you been working as an immigration attorney, and when did you make that move?
Great question. I started out with one large immigration law firm. Then I moved to San Antonio, Texas 2 years later and jumped to another large immigration law firm. The experience there was amazing. I learned so much in such a short period of time. But there was like this reoccurring theme in the large law firms, maybe just the ones I worked for. I don't want to speak for all large immigration law firms, but I felt like the emphasis was on quantity and not quality of representation. So I had clients in my office who felt they hired X person that they saw on TV, that's a big name and they want to speak to that person. But then they're in front of me and they're like, who are you? And yet I'm the one that's done all the legwork on the case. I've been the one following up. I've been doing, it's been my blood, sweat, and tears in the file, but all along they're expecting this other person. So eventually people came to know me and that was the one providing the services. But with me just being an associate, all I can do is what I'm allowed to do within my schedule. I can't make big decisions on how what policies and procedures we implement, how we handle the cases, how much caseload is too much caseload. I mean, I didn't have a say in any of those really important decisions that can really make or break how much time I have to give to any one person. So after I think probably after the first couple of years, I started toying with the idea of opening my own practice. My husband was always very supportive. Like I would say, okay, this is it. I'm going to open my practice. And then he would order me cards from Vistaprint and it would have like my name and like a PO box. And then I would like chicken out and then be like, okay, it's not a good time. It's not a good time. And we were like that back and forth. Till finally, in my 7th year of practice, it was clear, I was working for a firm where I felt appreciated for my efforts and everything I was putting in. And I didn't see that I was ever going to become partner or that I was ever going to advance to more than just an associate attorney. So I said, you know what? If I've met the ceiling here, I want to go open my own practice and do my own thing the way I've always wanted to do it. I want to do it client centered. I want each client to feel like they know me and I'm providing their service and they can trust me and they're going to rely on me. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to do that. And I cannot do that where I am right now. So that's when I decided to open my own practice. And once I did it, I thought, man, I should have done this so much earlier. I wasn't ready, I think, mentally, but in reality, once people, especially in the community that I serve, once they know your heart and they know what you're willing to do, they're going to refer you other clients. They have family members, they have neighbors, they have so many people that they know, and the minute they trust you, they're going to go ahead and bring all those other people for you to help as well. They're going to share and what they feel is a good thing amongst their community. So that's why I opened my own practice. And now looking back, like, it's been amazing. So I can serve my clients the way I want to serve them. I can work as many or as little hours as I want. I can expand or I can keep it small. And I can change as like the politics have changed. And now under President Trump, we've had to, shift our focus and shift our practice and shift the way we do things. And it's just been nice to have that autonomy, like to have that power to decide how I serve my clients.
Yeah. Wow. Now I'm just hearing all of that because I always wonder. I didn't meet an immigration attorney that was a woman until I think like my second year of law school, and someone who has their own practice. So you're just one of a kind out there too. So it's just amazing to hear all of this
Thank you.
and
And
what you're doing.
honestly, it's not as hard as you think it is. I remember how impossible it seemed to me. Um, but little by little, I felt like I was working at a job that was already pushing me to be my own office, if you will, because I ran an office. I basically ran their San Antonio office. I did everything as if I were the owner, except that I was not the owner.
Mm-hmm.
The owner still made all the major decisions, but I still had to bring in business. I still had numbers to meet. I still had to promote the office. So I was basically doing everything for somebody else. And I think that it was really empowering to one day just say, like, okay, if I can just have enough courage to step out of my comfort zone, I'm already doing all of those things for someone else. I can do those things for myself. And it was, and that's all it was. At the minute I did it, it took off. And I had clients right away. And this whole time I just thought, no one's going to want to come to me. No one's going to follow me. I'm going to be unemployed. But it was not the case, because I think I had already invested in my community, and people already knew who I was. And I think with the help of Facebook and Instagram, I mean, you can broadcast yourself no matter where you are, as long as you have enough guts to take that step.
Yes. Well, so whoever's watching and thinking of opening their firm, you've heard it right here. That especially in the Latinx community, it's much needed. First of all, and second of all, that I think that clientele, like you said, you build those relationships, and that's where it starts. And I think that's just beautiful. And we are getting lots of questions here. I'm really happy. I think that we're getting quite a few views today too, so that's really exciting.
Awesome.
I know that we're limited with IG only 1 hour, because otherwise it kicks us out. Hopefully we will stick to that 1 hour. If not, we'll kind of restart like just a little bit of another IG video, and then we'll finish off there. But so I might not get everyone's questions, but I'm trying to weave them in together here. It looks like we have a few questions just about learning Spanish. It was Spanish your first language or your second language?
So Spanish is definitely my second language. I grew up speaking Spanglish, to my grandparents. And I didn't get a good grasp of Spanish until I actually started practicing. So a little bit during the summers I spent at the nonprofit. And then after that, as soon as I started practicing, it's like I tell people my immigration Spanish is really strong. Like I know all the words. But like telling a joke or helping my personality come out in Spanish, I do struggle with that a little bit. But definitely it's just been in practice. So every day, you start learning the words. Normally the questions are the same, and it kind of becomes repetitive. And I've learned that you can learn a second language and master it if you are working in that language and you're exposed to having to speak that language every single day. And actually, I even have family members who work in my practice, and who at first their Spanish was a little shaky, but little by little it's improved. And they also have what we consider really strong immigration law Spanish at this point.
So for me, my story is a little different. I'm Spanish is my first language and English is my second. So I'm listening to the learning your immigration Spanish or your legal Spanish. It really does come with practice, because I didn't know a lot of the terms from how you learn it in English to translating documents. I think I started with translation. That really helped me a lot. And when we were in the field with farm workers, actually using them in more of one-on-one conversations. And then in my other internships, it was more of like practicing with those clients. So I know that there's a person who's asking right now, I speak Spanish already, but I was thinking of getting a minor in Spanish, help fine-tune my writing and speaking in Spanish. Would you think that would be necessary for possibly going into immigration law?
If you have a good grasp of conversational Spanish, your clients will give you a pass. It's funny because I've seen that clients don't expect me to have the best or most perfect Spanish. They just expect me to be able to explain to them, and answer their questions. So whether you get a minor in Spanish or not, if it helps your confidence, go ahead and do it. But I would not say that it's necessary, because I think that your Spanish is going to build and going to improve automatically with the clients that you're going to be serving. So it's like you're going to be prepared, but I don't even feel that your clients expect that perfect Spanish on day one. I have clients that I'll even say like, I'll get stuck and I'll say the word in English and then they'll tell me the word in Spanish, and like together we make it happen, you know. And it's kind of a beautiful thing, you know. They understand. They tell me, "Oh, abogada, you know, my English is terrible," and I say, "Yeah, well, my Spanish is not great. So together we're gonna make this work." And they always laugh about that. So I don't think that if you want to serve um, in you know, immigrants, if you want to serve like an undocumented population, especially a Latino population, don't feel that you need to master Spanish to do that. Just be
Mhm.
able to converse with them at some level. And I can't speak for wanting to speak another language and help people in, you know, like employment type visas or investor type visas. To me, that's a little different. That clientele is a little different in terms of like sophistication and education. They might expect you to have a better grasp of Spanish if you're serving, you know, corporations from Brazil or something like that. But if you want to do like removal defense and help people that are in the United States without status and speak Spanish, help them get status through their family members, that sort of thing. So if you want to serve the community I'm serving, I can say that your Spanish does not have to be perfect. You just have to make an effort, and it's going to get better with time.
Yeah, yeah, and I even met attorneys who are not of Spanish descent, so they don't even know any Spanish, and they learn over time. And just like you said, I think it's just the practicing and having
Yeah.
that connection. They will. Our community does understand. It's not like, you know, you do have to know some English too, so you kind of make that work. But thank you for that example. I think that answered that question. So kind of moving on from the topic of language, there's another question here. What was your bachelor's degree in? Um, and is there well, we're talking to someone from Texas, but the question was, is there one better school for immigration law in California? I think we can just be general in immigration school
Yeah.
overall. Does it matter which school?
Sure. Good questions. All really great questions. Okay. So my bachelor's degree was in communication arts, and my focus, I believe, was in public relations. So I got a bachelor's in communication arts, and a minor. My minor was in English. Of a law school that's better for immigration, I don't personally know that there is one. There might be now. You know, it's been, you know, over 10 years since I've been in law school, so I would suggest you can look into it. But remember that if you want to focus on immigration, you know, you just need to get your law degree and pass that bar. And you can pass a bar in any state and practice immigration law everywhere, which is kind of the beauty of practicing immigration law. Like I can be licensed in Texas, but I can practice in California because immigration law is federal. So
Mm.
it's a really nice kind of practice because you can do it anywhere. You're not stuck doing it in just your state. But I can't say I recommend any law school over another just because I've never done the research. You know, I didn't go into law school saying I want to be an immigration lawyer. So what school am I gonna go to? Just
Mm-hmm.
pick the school that's best for you and go.
Yes. Yes, I think I would definitely agree with that. I didn't consider that either. One thing maybe looking back is maybe possibly consider looking to see if they have an immigration clinic, because then
Yes.
you can possibly take that as a credit. I took even though I had done a lot of immigration work when I was in law school, I decided my last year of law school to do the immigration clinic so that I could fine tune some other type of casework so that I would be able to show in a transcript like a paper, like where it says that I did that and I got an A on it, and that like
Sure.
I did that work, that leg work, and that was really helpful. So maybe consider looking to see if that clinic, if the school that you're looking into has an immigration clinic. But other than
Definitely.
that, like the attorney is saying, like you go where you just go, and you
Yeah.
will have to learn a lot of immigration stuff on your own. I mean, I learned as a 1L. Like I was just, you know, I got hired on by an incredible attorney, and I still have this great mentorship relationship with him, and he mentored me through immigration law because I didn't know any of it, and I had to learn a lot of it myself. But um, it not everything is covered, even if you take an immigration clinic or a class. So
Yeah, but that's the case. I mean,
yeah.
you could start your first year and not cover everything in practice. I mean, immigration law is very complex, and there are so many variations on every case based on the facts. And because the changes have been, under each president, under 1996 there were big changes, there were like extensions of big changes. A lot of times you're gonna as an immigration practitioner, you're never gonna know everything. You're gonna consistently be learning. So that's something you have to be prepared for. And I definitely agree with the law, having an immigration law clinic, because that's really important. That'll be like your first taste of helping somebody under the supervision of your professor. I know here at St. Mary's, which is where my husband went to law school, and that's in San Antonio, Texas, their immigration law clinic allows the students to actually represent people in removal proceedings. So you actually get to go to court, you get to address the judge, you prepare for the hearings. I mean, you do everything under the supervisor of your professor, but it's you in that hearing answering and advocating for your client. And I think that's an amazing experience, and that's going to really give you a taste on whether you want to do this and if it's something that you're going to enjoy. So I second that. Look for a law school that has an immigration law clinic.
Yes, same for my clinic. They had their removal defense, and that's preparing the motions for the cases and preparing the brief that for the individual hearings as well. I noticed that your husband also did he go to law school before you or after you? I noticed that you guys were partners in the firm. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so actually, I convinced him to go to law school. My husband, when we met, he was active duty Army, and he was getting moved all across the country. During our first year together, he got stationed in Washington, D.C., and so his big dream was to become, join the FBI, but he didn't want to keep on moving around. So I told him, I've never met anybody that's more prepared to be a lawyer than you are. Like, you're just born for this. And so I convinced him to go. So he went to law school. Once I had already been practicing about, I want to say 5 or 6 years, he started law school. So I was working while he was going to law school. And thankfully, there's certain law schools that have amazing programs for people that are vets, and they'll, reduce their tuition and so forth. So yeah, we were lucky enough, or I don't know if lucky is the word, to be to have me practicing, working at a law firm. Well, he's a full-time law student, and I just so happened to have one of our babies. Our son was born the day of his very first law school final. It was his torts final, and I decided
Oh,
that was the day. so so we have like a really interesting story. And as soon as he graduated, he joined the practice, and he hit the ground running. Like, he jumped in, and right away he had bond hearings. He was getting people out of detention. He was winning asylum cases. We're like, everyone's like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? But he literally watched everything that I've done, took it from there, and has like applied himself. So
wow, that's pretty cool. And I'm glad he had you as someone to look to.
that's what he says. He's like, I just watch everything you do and everything you say, and I'm constantly learning too. And I know I see like a lot of questions about starting salary for lawyers and how does all this go. I think that's something that's important to know, is like that there are lots of Facebook groups out there. Lawtina, this is one avenue for you to get information that you need about making these big decisions, and also helping you get started. And I owe a lot of my courage to starting my own practice to like a Facebook group called they're called Amigas, Association of Mother Immigration Lawyers.
I love you too. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. So that group has been instrumental in everything from convincing me, encouraging me to open my own practice, to, having courage to charge what I'm worth, because, being an immigration practitioner, it's so hard. You feel like you're a bleeding heart, and especially if you come from a public interest background, you almost want to give away your services all the time. But and that could be a whole other session, but you quickly learn that if you're providing a certain service, there are lots of options out there. There are nonprofits to serve your communities. And if you're sending the clients that qualify that way, and you're keeping the clients that want your service and can afford your service, then you can earn a good living, have your own practice, and give really good representation and advocacy. And that's something that I learned the hard way through this Facebook group that's been like I said, instrumental. Like we ask questions on there, we run fact patterns by each other, all everything from law practice management to like handling specific clients to like what kind of magnetic lashes are everyone using. I mean, crazy stuff, but like the sense of community is just like amazing. And when you are a solo practitioner, it's really important to have that ability to connect with other practitioners, especially ones that you can relate to. So look for those groups. I think you have to be licensed to join Amigas, but that's something you guys should write down and look forward to the minute that you guys are licensed. Maybe I don't know what the requirements are. I'm not going to lie. I mean, try to join and see what they tell you. But it's an amazing Facebook group for anybody that wants to practice immigration law.
Yeah.
Females.
I'm like a member non-member type of thing. Like obviously I'm a public platform, and immigration law was why I went into law school, and I love reading and learning from you guys. I know that they do have restrictions, so make sure you check them. They have been kind to kind of because I'm working. I didn't realize I was working with an Amiga, which is pretty awesome because I love their group. I love learning from them, and like you said, it can be as funny as what silly things we're doing in quarantine. Like, I love reading them because it keeps me going. Even just sharing sometimes health tips, and some like just a rant, and I'm like, I'm reading this rant, so I'm like, I can totally relate, girl. Like, this is what I'm going through too. So
yeah,
I love the group for sure. And someone asked what it actually is called. Is Amigas Association for Mother Immigration Lawyers,
Association of Mother Immigration Attorneys. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't know,
attorneys.
it doesn't really fit exactly, but if you just look up Association of Mother Immigration, it'll already come up. And you can ask to join the group. It's consistently growing. It's amazing. There are some of the best immigration minds are on there, and it's so awesome that you can ask a question and other practitioners who you completely trust and look up to will like answer and say like, yeah, you're absolutely right with your line of research, or I had a case very similar and this is what happened. And it's been really instrumental, especially under this administration, where we've had to become very creative in our advocacy and what we do, and for you to practice a type of law where your president is completely against everything, the population that you're helping. I mean, that talk about like, I don't know, advocacy under fire. It's been interesting, but there are so many people who serve the immigrant community, and we're all pretty happy with what we're doing. So if you want to join, you're welcome to look up the requirements and see if you can join that group. I highly recommend it.
And if you can't join the group, they do have an Instagram page. I didn't realize that, so I have started tagging them when I can. So I hope Allie is cool with me tagging them. And I think kind of, since you mentioned the administration, we're kind of switching into, and I'm sorry we can't ask her all the questions today because there's quite a lot, but maybe I've been writing them down, and I think the next question is, it mixes in with what's going on today. So let me find that question real quick on here.
Sure. And I think you had asked me even, about advising undocumented populations about seeking healthcare with this pandemic. And, basically all the advice that we're kind of all on the same page is that if somebody needs that healthcare, they need to seek it regardless of their lawful status. I know that there are concerns about being arrested, concerns about triggering a public charge negative determination, but right now, according to ICE, they have what they consider sensitive location policies, where they're not going to enter a hospital and arrest somebody. That doesn't protect you when you're leaving or if your family members that are entering, but while you're seeking treatment in an emergency room, ICE is not to go and effectuate an arrest. They've done it on occasions and they've cited exceptions, but the rule is just that they're not going to go and do that. Hospitals are also not asking for lawful status or anything like that in order to treat patients, so it should not happen.
Thank you for answering that. Yeah, that was a question that we've been discussing that we were going to talk about today. And I think the question, it comes with not just undocumented people, but also with those who have like other types of immigration status, so temporary protected status or DACA. I think some of their worries is, would that be a, what is it called, a public
The
charge?
public charge, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So USCIS announced on their webpage that anybody seeking treatment or assistance during the pandemic because of COVID-19 will those use of benefits will not be counted against the applicants when it comes time to apply for a benefit that takes that public charge determination into account. So definitely anyone who is going to be seeking, a green card or any kind of different status in the future where your public charge determination is going to come into play, make sure that if you received any kind of benefits that you, obviously tie that to what's happening right now. And I'm almost positive immigration is going to be completely understanding. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here because this is something that we're all experiencing at the same time, like them as well. So I think that people should continue, whatever it is that they need at this moment, they should seek those benefits. They should not stop short because of how they think their case will be affected in the future when USAS has already said, don't worry about it. We're going to make exceptions because of what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. That's been very helpful. I know that in our previous discussion with Latina RNs, if you've been following Cafecito Time, we couldn't answer that exact question how you have, because myself and Latina RN are not immigration attorneys, and we wanted to make sure that we got the right. So thank you so much for answering that one. And kind of following up with that, there's a question here, and it might be a little bit open-ended, so feel free to, how much you are able to answer in this one session, but how do you deal with Trump's harsh immigration policies that affect your cases, and how do you communicate with your clients regarding those issues?
Sure. I mean, I hate it. Like plain and simple. I
Yeah.
practiced under President Obama, which was not amazing either. I mean, I was super excited about DACA. That was really instrumental. I'm so happy he did that. But there are other things that occurred under that administration that immigration practitioners were not happy about. That's when under Obama we started detaining families, women and children. That was something that we had never done before. And now under the Trump administration, we're separating families. We're requiring people to seek asylum in Mexico. I mean, these changes are awful and they're human rights abuses. So of course, it's painful to practice under this president. I'm not going to lie about that. But I think that we just show up. You show up and you communicate as best as you can without making people panic. And the way that I've done it personally is that I do Facebook Live from my Facebook. Whatever happens, like when the president tweeted on, last Monday that he was going to start limiting immigration to protect jobs and because to stop the spread of the virus, I went on my Instagram and I told people like, hey, I know this tweet's freaking you out, but we're going to just wait and see what happens with this executive action. Let's not jump to conclusions until we know exactly what's happening. And sure enough, it's been heartbreaking to practice under Trump. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that, but we just take it day after day, hoping that one day things will be different. And honestly, our clients are resilient. That's the thing. I feel like practitioners take it harder than the clients do. At least my clients anyway, they're like, oh yeah, we know it's getting harder. We know the case is going to be more difficult than we expected. And they just continue hoping for the best. And I think that to keep everyone abreast of what's going on, I use my social media platforms. I also do a radio show. It's a Christian radio show, like Tuesday, Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. So we just talk about everything that's happening and how the cases are affected. People call in and ask questions about their particular cases. And so, yeah, that's how I keep my clients informed. And obviously, when there's a major change that affects any of my cases, then we just call them in for an appointment, explain our new strategy and how we're going to handle. So it is very day after day, things change. And everything, how we practice, especially my husband, he does a lot of the detained work. He also handles our cases for our clients that are stuck in Mexico, having to seek asylum while residing in Mexico. That changes, week to week, where we file things, which judge is going to be hearing the case, because they'll do judges by televideo, where the client's going to be. I mean, it's always a mess, but I think we've gotten used to practicing that way. And so that's something that you can expect if you want to do immigration law, especially removal defense, that it's consistently changing under the president as he, cracks down harder and harder and harder on asylum seekers. And it's like our new normal.
Yeah, a lot of changes. I know that it was pretty frustrating, even as when I was a paralegal, just as a law clerk, just keeping up with the constant changes and a lot of denials like we didn't expect to RFE, so
Yeah.
requests for information. It was overwhelming. So I know that I really hope the situation changes. So we're just here to plug in right here.
Yes.
um, it's very important that we and I'm really happy that we're talking about immigration law, especially if there's anyone considering going into law school and how important it is for our community. I do have a couple more questions that were on here, and one of them was kind of finding a lawyer. What and some recommendations? I know that you mentioned that immigration law is a federal level, and so we can practice law anywhere because it's in the federal level. But so some that may not know, how can they find an attorney that will be willing to help them in their process? Is that they can someone from, for example, Texas, take someone from California, or vice versa? Like, what does that look like for someone who's thinking of hiring an immigration attorney?
I mean, definitely. I think that if you want to go, if you want to learn what you're doing before, let's say, starting your own practice, I would suggest working for a larger law firm, because that's where I learned, I guess, the majority of the issues and how to actually help people that have immigration questions. So definitely working as an associate, seek a mentor. I know I'm always happy to mentor. I do as much as I can. I do run a practice, and I have children and a husband and a household and pets and all the things and dreams and aspirations aside from being a lawyer. So, but in between all that, I'm happy to always answer questions that anyone might have. But because because of these like Facebook groups, it's pretty easy to communicate and connect with a lawyer that would be willing to mentor you. I know that on our Amigas page, people have asked like, hey, what does mentorship look like? Can I find somebody? So I know that those questions have come up, and a lot of attorneys enjoy doing it. So it's just about finding the right person. So if let's say you want to practice in California, and you want to help out, like there's so many things that you can do to help a law practice, even that's not located in your city. For example, I've had people help me do like declarations for certain cases, like for example, someone seeking protection under the Violence Against Women Act. So let's say we're going to do like a domestic violence type of case. You can virtually assist in drafting a declaration, so you can kind of get a feel on what that looks like, how serving that population feels like, if that's something you want to do or not. So I think because of technology, Facebook groups, collaboration, it's pretty easy to find a mentor that can help you kind of get your feet wet with immigration if you want to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I know that we're running on time, so kind of to respect your time, I do have just a couple more questions that we'll finish in, so I won't be taking any more. One is just a comment of, I just saw that I'm a 32-year-old Latina. There's a thought of law school and far-fetched at this age. And it looks like, so she also has a partner, kids, and pets. So
Actually, I mean, no, honestly, the people that I think I learned from the most in law school were people that were already experienced and who were part of our class discussions, who came to the table with experience and with already, confidence in what they wanted to do and what they wanted to provide to the world. I think 32 is an amazing age to go to law school. My husband is 37 now, and he's been licensed for 2 years. So he must have started law school at 32. So that is the perfect age to join. He went to law school. Our law school in San Antonio provides a part-time evening program. So if that's something you need to look for, I suggest it. You can complete law school in 4 years instead of 3, I believe. But he just gave it all he had. He focused on nothing but going to school and studying. I worked. We have at that time we had 3 kids already and a house and bills and obligations, and we made it work. So if you want to be a lawyer, 32 is not too late at all. You have so many years ahead of you that you can be doing amazing things for people. So no, get it, do it.
Yes, and just to let this viewer also know, I was in a part-time program, and the majority of the people that were in my class were older than me. I mean, they had children and family and other responsibilities, but they still managed to graduate in those 4 years while also working full time. So it is definitely possible. And if you guys have any questions for me or for our guest today, Vanessa Shield, you can reach her on Instagram as well. So you can message us if you have questions or need anything else. I have 2 more questions, and one of them is, it's what resources or tips can you give to those exploring becoming an immigration lawyer? So what if they're starting out, and where would you say they could start looking?
So, and this is somebody that's in law school or somebody already licensed?
Sorry, someone who is, well, either or, they are considering going to law school, or someone who is already in law school and they're thinking, okay, maybe immigration law, it's something I'm interested in, but I'm not sure where I can start learning about immigration and why
Got
I
it.
should go to immigration. Mhm.
I would highly suggest getting with a local nonprofit because they would have the capacity maybe to let you volunteer so you can help and see if that's something you want to do. There are lots of great immigration nonprofit organizations. There are some dedicated to helping people, at the border, some dedicated to helping people obtain certain types of relief. And so that would be my suggestion. Like, for example, here in San Antonio, we have Raices, and I know that a lot of people, during family separation, they raise like millions of dollars, thanks to everyone coming together and contributing. And so now they have the capacity to do so much more and serve our community in so many different ways. So definitely get with a nonprofit. There are nonprofits that help immigrants in the legal capacity. There are nonprofits that help, at the border and at these shelters where immigrants are residing temporarily when they're like in transit from arriving to the country to seek asylum to then looking for permanent residence. So I think that I would just look to a nonprofit and start from there, because you're gonna really get to see kind of like the bigger picture.
Well, I guess the last question, because I know that a lot of people are trying to find their passion, if this is for them. Is there a humbling case that you can, like, that has been just so moving for you that you worked on? Maybe leaving off with a positive note might be something that those who are thinking of if immigration's for them, that might help them decide.
Definitely. So I mean, the minute you say that, like there's like so many people come to mind. Um, I think my most memorable case so far is the case I'm still working on. Okay, it's one of like my top 5 memorable, but I've been working with this young girl. I mean, now she's 18. Years ago, and her mom was detained, and she had literally been deported probably like 4 to 5 times by the time we got to her case. And we were trying to help her stay in the country based on domestic violence she had suffered, and also because they come from El Salvador and there is a danger upon their return due to this girl's father, who is a leader of a gang, MS-13, detained in prison for life, who has like massive power in the country. So they're all my clients. So client, her 2 children, and the client's mother fled El Salvador, and they're now in the United States. So the case started where we're helping mom try, almost impossible to get her to stay. Right when we're about to like win her case, the law changes, and thanks to this administration, they say, you know what, we're basically no longer gonna accept cases for asylum based on domestic violence. So from one week to the next, her case went from like a very strong case to a losing case. and her mom was detained, and she didn't want to stay detained longer and keep fighting. So she said, you know what, I'm going to take a removal. I'm going to get removed from the country. So she gets taken out. So now we're left just helping her daughter and her daughter and her son. And basically, because mom is out of the country and dad is in jail, we're able to get what's called a special immigrant juvenile visa, which helps us get these two kids lawful status in the U.S. Because of abandonment, basically. And so when mom gets deported, now we have two kids living with grandma, and papusas, that's her thing. They have like a small business, but they don't have a lot of money. And so I'm speaking to this little girl. She's, turning 15, and she sends me a picture of her in her quinceañera dress. Woo, I'm gonna cry. And she says, I decided I'm not gonna have a quinceañera. I'm gonna use that money to pay for my status, my legal status in this country. And so she gave up that like huge party and celebration that's so vital, really important to Latinas everywhere. She used that money instead to pay for her representation. And so now she's in line waiting for her green card. And now she's graduating high school, and she wants to go to UT. So me and my husband, we've agreed to pay for her SAT prep and help her get into college, because she has big dreams and she wants to be an immigration lawyer too. So, we've been representing her for probably like 3, 4 or 5 years. No, yeah, about 4 years now at this point. And it's been amazing, like helping them make that happen. I have a client who basically sacrificed her quinceañera to get her lawful status. Like, the money that was going to be used for her party, she said, you know what, I'm going to use that money instead to do what's important for my future. And like, I knew that moment that she was, she was going to be special. Like, she was already making these brave choices at only 14 years old, and she's been amazing since then. She's going to come and practice. She's doing moot court right now in high school because she wants to be a lawyer. So she called and said, will you and Chris practice cross-examination with me? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So we're going to have a mock trial here at the office. And she's going to get to learn cross-examination from my husband, who's actually an amazing litigator. So, we've done everything we can to just motivate her and help her in her life. And we've, along the year, as the years go by, you start collecting like entire family members, because, when you help one person, you end up helping cousins and brothers and sisters and so forth. And so you represent entire families. And I think it's just it's a privilege. It's been amazing to see people grow and prosper and do better. And I've had people get DACA and who are now like opening these huge businesses, and they're so successful and they're employing people. And it's just amazing to see what one person can do with a dream and a green card. You know what I mean? They can make so many amazing things happen, and you can be part of that if immigration law attracts you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. That was beautiful. And I think it's amazing what you're doing. I want to get to know you more. I would love to have you back.
Yeah, let's do it. I love it. I had so much fun.
I know the Cafecito time that you're taking your time to speak with our students and with our community. I'm hoping that for when we transition, we'll be transitioning to a podcast, so we are able to have less connectivity issues and more of the recording time, and that people can hear our story.
And anybody can, if you want to add me on Instagram and send me messages, I'll be happy to answer your questions. I know we didn't get to answer everyone's question, and I think all your questions are really important, and I'm happy to answer them. It might be in the evening, so just give me a little while, but definitely. So I use both my Instagram handles. This is at Latina Law Mom, is like my personal one, like where I post things that anybody can see, I guess, like family, friends, people that are closer to me. And then I have my professional handle, which is abogada_Alonso. So feel free to follow both. One is more like advising my clients and the community at large. And then the other is more personal, like about me, what I'm doing with my kids, what I ate for lunch, like, the typical Instagram. So feel free to reach out to me on either. I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to answer everyone's questions.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and for being so active. And thank you for your time. It's been awesome to talk to you and just hear how, well, the amazing things that you're doing and how much experience you have and all the feedback that you're giving to a lot of our law students or those who are thinking of going to law school. That's been really helpful. You know, like we said, I wish I would have had you or a lot of other people who could have told us like what to do. I hope that people that are watching are getting a lot of it just
Yeah.
helps this
And just,
cafecito.
and I think a lot of the questions are just geared towards like, you know, is it a good time in my life to do this? Should I even do this? Like, if this is something that interests you, go for it. You're never too old. You're never, you know, you've never gone down too much of one path to start another. Um, Law school and being an attorney can open so many doors for you. You can do so much with the law license, with that education, with that license. Like, you know, it brings respect. It makes people listen. And if you want to speak up for a certain group of people, whether it be immigrants or the LGBT community or whoever, if you have passion to be an advocate, then definitely go to law school. Don't worry about your GPA. Don't worry about any of those things, because at the end of the day, I show up in court and I help people and I file applications and I'm speaking to my community with a 151 LSAT score and a 3.4 GPA. Like, anybody can do this. And at the end of the day, none of those numbers matter. It really, you know, you're going to be caught up in those things. But I go to court and I'm, you know, with Harvard grads that are also representing people. But you know what? Maybe they're smarter than me, probably. But I have a heart and I have passion and I fight for my clients. And you guys can do that too.
I love it. Amen. I mean, for my part, that's amazing. So thank you so much,
You're
abogada.
welcome.
I really appreciate your time and thank you for everyone tuning in.